Have you ever walked into a discount store, filled your shopping cart with items that felt like absolute steals, and genuinely believed you were making a smart financial decision, only to find yourself replacing those exact same items 6 months later because they completely fell apart? Or maybe you earn a six-figure salary, you do everything society tells you is responsible, yet you check your bank account at the end of the month with a knot in your stomach because you are essentially two missed paychecks away from a total financial crisis. I want you to picture two apartments in the exact same city, in the exact same neighborhood, with similar rent. The first apartment belongs to someone earning $95,000 a year. Walk inside and you will find a 75-inch television, a $4,000 leather sectional, closets overflowing with clothes that still have tags on them, and a spare bedroom acting as a storage unit for items untouched in years. This person is drowning in financial anxiety. The second apartment belongs to someone earning just $52,000 a year. Their space is minimal, their closet only holds clothes they actually wear, and they check their bank account with calm confidence because they have 18 months of expenses saved and invest 20% of every paycheck. How does the person making nearly half as much money have 10 times the financial security? My name is Steven. I am a millionaire entrepreneur in my 40s, and after decades of building businesses and analyzing wealth creation, I can tell you the brutal truth. The $95,000 earner is paying the modern poverty tax. This is not a story about income. It is a story about the hidden relationship between stuff and money that most people never understand. And today, I am going to show you exactly how the habit of buying cheap goods, upgrading your lifestyle, and falling for modern marketing is guaranteeing that you will stay broke forever. Let me start with a fundamental concept that will completely reframe how you look at every single purchase you make for the rest of your life. Everything you own actually costs money twice. The first cost is obvious. It is the purchase price printed on your receipt. But the second cost is the invisible one that most people completely ignore, and it is often massively larger than the first. This second cost includes storage, maintenance, opportunity cost, and the immense mental energy required to manage your possessions. Think about that treadmill you bought on sale. Space costs roughly $30 to $50 per square foot annually in most urban areas, meaning you are paying up to $1,000 a year in implicit rent just to store a piece of equipment that you use to hang your laundry. Furthermore, researchers have proven that visual clutter actively increases your cortisol levels and reduces your brain's ability to focus, meaning your cheap, accumulated stuff is literally stressing you out in ways you cannot even consciously perceive. Every single hour you spend organizing, cleaning around, or thinking about items you do not actually need is an hour stolen from activities that could genuinely increase your earning capacity. To escape this exhausting cycle, you must adopt the core rule that wealthy people and conscious minimalists follow religiously. You must calculate the cost per use before making any purchase. This is the only honest and mathematically sound measure of an item's true value. For instance, if you buy a $200 jacket because it is on sale, but it is so uncomfortable that you only wear it twice, that jacket costs you $100 per wear. However, if you invest $400 in a high-quality, durable jacket that you wear 200 times, it costs you just $2 per wear. The expensive jacket is mathematically and practically cheaper. Traditional cheapness focuses solely on the initial checkout price, resulting in a home filled with low-quality junk that constantly breaks and needs replacing, while conscious minimalism cuts through the marketing, the emotion, and the social pressure to reveal what actually makes long-term financial sense. But the modern poverty tax is not just about buying cheap physical items. It is about how the modern economy is deliberately engineered by behavioral psychologists to bypass your rational decision-making and extract your wealth. You are constantly being manipulated by the scarcity illusion. Your brain evolved in an environment where resources were genuinely scarce, so when you see a banner online screaming, "Only 3 left in your size," or "Flash sale ends in 3 hours," your brain is flooded with evolutionary anxiety. You panic buy an $89 sweater at 11 p.m. that you do not need, simply because the algorithm manufactured a false sense of urgency. Artificial intelligence now makes this scarcity dynamic and personalized. If the algorithm knows you panic at low inventory warnings, it will amplify those specific messages just to break your financial discipline. Then there is the micro-purchase trap. Your brain is wired to evaluate large purchases carefully, but it completely ignores small amounts like $20 or $30. The modern economy has optimized this to perfection, with free shipping thresholds, in-app game purchases, and food delivery apps. You think $25 for Uber Eats doesn't matter, but you order it 4 times a week, draining $500 a month from your future wealth. In fact, food delivery platforms charge restaurants 15% to 30% in commission fees, which are passed directly to you through inflated menu prices that run 25% higher than in-store, plus service fees, delivery fees, and tips. A meal that costs $12 at a restaurant easily reaches $22 on the app, an 83% markup simply for the privilege of not driving 10 minutes. If you order delivery twice a week at a $15 premium, you are spending an extra $1,560 annually. If you invested that money at 8% annual returns for 20 years, it would become $78,000. You are literally eating your retirement. We also see this engineered wealth destruction with the upgrade illusion. Tech companies have perfected planned obsolescence, using software updates to make your perfectly functional 3-year-old smartphone feel sluggish and outdated. The physical hardware hasn't degraded, but the software bloat makes you believe your phone is dying. So instead of paying $89 for a simple battery replacement, you are manipulated into buying a brand new $1,200 phone that offers absolutely zero meaningful improvements for your daily life. The difference between the camera on an iPhone 13 and an iPhone 16 is imperceptible to the average user scrolling Instagram. Yet millions of people line up to finance these imperceptible upgrades, losing thousands of dollars in depreciation. If you simply shifted from replacing your $1,000 phone every 2 years to every 4 years and invested the $5,000 difference over 2 decades, that money would grow to over $10,000. Now you might be thinking, Stephen, I make a 6-figure salary. These small traps don't apply to me. That is the biggest lie the middle class tells itself. There is a massive, growing demographic of people earning $120,000, $150,000, or even $200,000 a year who are what I call quietly broke. Earning 6 figures does not mean what it used to. After federal taxes, state taxes, and deductions, a $140,000 salary leaves you with maybe $8,000 a month in actual take-home pay. But because you earn 6 figures, society tells you that you deserve a luxury apartment for $3,000 a month, a $700 car payment for a BMW to look professional, and expensive weekend trips to keep up with your equally broke peers. This is Parkinson's law applied to personal finance. Your expenses will always expand to perfectly meet your income unless you violently stop them. You are engaging in an elaborate performance of success that you cannot actually afford. This trap becomes utterly devastating when people get into relationships, creating what we call the 2-paycheck trap. Let me tell you about Tyler and Jessica. When they were single, Tyler made $55,000, lived with roommates, drove an old car, and saved $1,500 a month. Jessica made $50,000, lived modestly, and saved $1,000 a month. Separately, this couple was saving $30,000 a year on a combined $105,000 income. Then they moved in together. They looked at their combined six-figure income and felt rich. They upgraded to a $2,500 two-bedroom apartment, financed two newer cars, tripled their restaurant budget, and bought new furniture. Their expenses exploded from $4,000 a month when single to $7,000 a month living together. Suddenly, despite sharing living costs, they were only saving $18,000 a year. They literally lost $12,000 in annual wealth-building capacity by moving in together because they treated their combined income as an excuse to inflate their lifestyle. When you combine incomes, you do not magically become wealthy. You simply multiply your temptation to spend. The couples who actually become millionaires do something radical. They live entirely on one income and ruthlessly invest the other. Speaking of lifestyle inflation, we have to talk about the absolute worst financial decision you can make, which I call the pavement princess trap. Drive through any suburban neighborhood and count the pristine, $80,000 lifted pickup trucks with spotless beds that have never hauled anything heavier than a bag of groceries. In 1990, trucks were practical $15,000 tools for contractors. Today, the average transaction price for a new truck is $58,000, with luxury models easily cracking $80,000. People buy these vehicles for identity signaling, to feel capable and rugged, even though they couldn't change a tire without calling roadside assistance. Let's do the brutal math on this ego purchase. If you buy a $62,000 truck, put $5,000 down, and finance the rest at 7% for 72 months, your payment is $975. Add $200 for insurance and $340 for gas at 14 miles per gallon, and this vehicle costs you $1,565 every single month. If you earn $75,000 a year, this truck is consuming 1/3 of your entire take-home pay. After 6 years, you will have paid $75,000 total for an asset that is now worth maybe $30,000. The net cost is $45,000 in pure wealth destruction. But the real tragedy is the opportunity cost. If you had invested that $625 monthly difference into an index fund averaging 8%, you would have $57,000. Your ego didn't just cost you a truck. It cost you over $100,000 in lost wealth for a vehicle that hauled absolutely nothing. Real millionaires do not play this game. Studies show the typical millionaire drives a reliable Toyota, Honda, or Ford, paying a median price of just $31,367. They understand that a car is transportation, not a status symbol. The cost of this constant consumption is that you miss out on the most powerful force in the universe, compound interest. Let me introduce you to James and Chris. They are both 30 years old, they both earn $65,000 a year working at the same company, and they live in the same city. James has a net worth of negative $20,000. Chris has a net worth of $180,000. How is this possible? When James got his first real job, he inflated his lifestyle immediately. He got his own expensive apartment, bought a brand new car, and ate out constantly because he felt he deserved it. Chris, on the other hand, practiced conscious minimalism. He kept living like a broke college student, kept his old paid-off Honda, had roommates, and actively funneled the massive gap between his income and his expenses directly into investments. Chris understood that the point of earning money in your 20s and 30s is not to finally buy expensive junk. It is to invest as much as possible while you still have time for compound growth to work its magic. Most people fail to be like Chris because they think compound interest is a lie. You invest $500 a month And after a year, your portfolio has only made $80 in actual returns. It feels slow and pathetic. But that is because compounding is heavily backloaded, which is explained by the 8-4-3 rule. If you invest $10,000 a year at a 12% return, it will take you 8 long, grinding years to reach your first major milestone of roughly $123,000. During this time, your contributions do all the heavy lifting. But watch what happens next. It only takes 4 additional years for that money to double to $241,000. In this transitional phase, your money starts pulling equal weight. Then it takes just 3 more years for it to double again to $372,000. In those final 3 years, your portfolio generates more wealth than it did in the entire first 8 years combined. The people who stay broke are the ones who get bored during the first 8 years, stop contributing, raid their accounts to buy a pavement princess truck, and completely miss the explosive acceleration phase where their money finally starts working harder than they do. So, how do you actually escape this trap? How do you transition from a reactive consumer who is constantly bled dry by subscriptions, inflation, and social pressure into a conscious capital allocator? It does not happen by accident. It happens by building daily systems that make staying poor genuinely difficult. First, you must implement what I call the Morning Money Minute. Every single morning, before you look at social media or check your emails, you take exactly 60 seconds to open your financial apps and observe 3 numbers: your checking balance, your total debt, and your investment balance. You don't judge, you don't stress, you just look. This normalizes financial awareness. When you look at your debt balance at 7 a.m., that impulse purchase you consider at lunch feels entirely different. It connects your daily choices to tangible outcomes, pulling you out of the avoidance cycle that keeps people broke. Second, you execute the 24-hour wealth capture. Most people save whatever happens to be left over at the end of the month, which is usually 0. Instead, you set up an automatic daily transfer of $5, $10, or $20 from your checking to a separate investment account. A monthly transfer of $300 feels like a massive loss and triggers psychological resistance, but a daily transfer of $10 is completely invisible to your brain. Over a year, that invisible daily habit captures $3,650. You are capturing wealth first thing each day, before the marketing algorithms have a chance to tempt you. Third, you perform a 2-minute sunset spending review every evening. You look at your transactions for the day and mentally categorize them as either intentional or reactive. Intentional means it added genuine value. Reactive means you bought it because you were stressed, bored, or manipulated by a scarcity timer. Reviewing a monthly budget is useless because by the end of the month, you forget the emotion you felt when you bought the item. Daily reviews capture the emotional context while it is fresh, allowing you to identify your exact psychological triggers and stop the bleeding. Fourth, you dedicate 15 minutes a day to learning a high-income skill. Your income is simply the market value of your skills. 15 minutes a day compounds into 90 hours of deliberate skill building a year. The person who spends 15 minutes studying negotiation, sales, or industry trends will eventually command a massive premium over the person who spends those 15 minutes scrolling through TikTok. Finally, you must engineer your environment by creating massive friction for spending and total ease for saving. Relying on willpower is a fool's game. Willpower depletes when you are tired or stressed. You must delete shopping apps from your phone, remove saved credit card numbers from websites, and institute a mandatory 72-hour waiting period for any non-essential purchase. At the same time, you automate your investments so the money hits your brokerage account before you even see your paycheck. If you cap your cash in your checking account and move your emergency fund to a high-yield savings account that takes 2 days to access, you create a psychological barrier that prevents you from raiding your future to fund your present. Most importantly, you must define what enough looks like before you make more money. People who earn $300,000 feel just as stressed as people earning $80,000 because they never set a finish line. If you decide right now that a $30,000 car is enough and a modest home is enough, then every future raise you get will flow directly into your wealth engine instead of disappearing into a marginally nicer version of a life you already had. Minimalists and wealthy entrepreneurs measure true wealth not by accumulation, but by optionality. The guy with the $95,000 salary and the house full of cheap junk has 0 options. He is chained to his job. The guy with the $52,000 salary and the massive investment account has the ultimate luxury, the ability to say no, the freedom to take risks, and the power to walk away from anything that doesn't serve him. The next time you are standing in a store holding a cheaply made product or staring at a checkout screen with a countdown timer trying to rush your decision, stop and realize what is actually happening. You are being asked to pay the modern poverty tax. You are being asked to trade your future financial optionality, your mental peace, and your irreplaceable time for a fleeting dopamine hit that will wear off before the item even arrives at your door. Stop playing the rigged game where you work tirelessly just to funnel your salary into a landfill of broken goods and subscription fees. Adopt conscious minimalism. Track your numbers daily. Invest the gap ruthlessly. Because true financial freedom is not about how many cheap things you can afford to buy today. It is entirely about how much of your money you can protect, invest, and predictably compound for your freedom tomorrow.